Funding for this program has been provided by Atlantic Bank of New York and its parent company, the National Bank of Greece. This program is made possible by annual financial support from viewers like you.
I feel blessed to be Greek, and it's a spirit, it's a zest for life, and it's a happiness and a sense of family that is very hard to find in other cultures.
There's an adventurous spirit, and there's an entrepreneurial spirit in Greeks. They'll say, oh, I'll do this, and then they'll change. They'll say, no, now I want to do this. They don't consider themselves failures because they've changed.
Or if it's a guy that's pushing a cart in New York selling hot dogs, they talk about the same thing. Family, our church, our children, our work, and our sense of who we are and our pride and identity.
The best Greek quality is a passion for life. You know, the Zorba, the Greek quality of enthusiasm, to be full of life, to really live life to the fullest.
It's like having an extended family. One of the things I've been most grateful for in politics, especially working in the White House, a lot of tough times come with the good, and you end up getting some heat, but you always knew at least the Greeks were there.
We've made our impact on the world for centuries, but we've only been in America since the 1800s. For us, coming to America meant you could take care of your family. We've always been searching for new challenges since the time of Alexander the Great. We've found it in America, even though the journey at times has been painful.
My dad was very poor. When he was 13, the ship called the Democracy was in the harbor. He decided to swim out to the ship, climb up the anchor, took enough bread and water to go in the lifeboat for so many days, made a cabin boy until they got to New York. At New York, he jumped ship, got through Ellis Island, called his uncle in Swissvale, Pennsylvania, caught a train, didn't speak English at all, got to Swissvale, went to work as a shoeshine boy, and eventually had his own business.
My father was born in the Peloponnesians and was an orphan, and was brought to the United States around 1910 by his uncle. His uncle owned a grocery store on 10th Avenue. He lived in the back of the store and worked in the front of the store. So I had firsthand observation of the immigrant life, if you will.
My father left Greece when he was 11 years old, and he went to France, where from the age of 11 till the age of 18, he was a coal miner in Lyon. Then found his way to the United States just before the Great Depression. Came to this country, didn't have a nickel in his pocket, had no relatives here. And within 3 or 4 weeks of coming to the United States, he opened a restaurant. An amazing story of the kind of courage that someone would have to come take a risk like that.
Well, look, I consider the people like my father and mother who came here modern-day heroes, Greek heroes. You talk about Demosthenes or Pericles, Socrates, and so those were the ancient Greek heroes. They were the modern heroes because they came here with nothing. My father left his village with a loaf of bread under his arm, and the village was up in the mountains, the top of Kisavos Mountain, and he was the eldest of the 4 sons, and they said, get to New York, or get to America any way you can, and send money back. We're starving here.
Food played a key role both economically and culturally. We brought our cheeses, our olives, and pastries. We knew how to serve it well to the customer to make a good living. Food was a business that needed only hard work. It provided essential lessons for the next generation.
And I make fantastic avalemono soup. And everybody laughs because when I make avalemono for the family, they say, it's amazing that your avalemono never breaks.
I do like to cook. I like to barbecue, and I learned a lot of good Greek recipes from my father. We call up each other and say, hey, I'm making this today. Oh, I'm making the shrimp. It's really, like this. So yes, I do love to cook.
Give us the recipe.
Well, I can't. I'd have to kill you if I gave you the recipe.
Well,
you know, I can't. They're family secrets. They're Stamos family secrets. I can't let them out.
I cook all the time. That's one of the reasons why my wife married me. So if you guys, want to marry someone, get on the ball, start cooking.
This is to America what the hot dog is to the rest of the world. Sizzling souvlaki at a Greek festival.
Greeks are great at running restaurants. I swear. My dad ran the restaurant, that was great. And there's always a great Greek diner.
This picture has become as recognizable to the American landscape as McDonald's Golden Arches. The Greek diner has been one of the many springboards to our successes.
We give it as much as we can, and we try to do the best we can. Pleasure the customer.
What do you wish for your daughter? Good school, good life. What is the thing you're going to give her?
The best education, and if she don't want it, welcome. The place is open for her.
My brother and I started out as bus boys when my father was no longer an owner, but the cook in a diner. I've never worked harder in my whole life, and the appreciation that you have for your father working in a hot kitchen that way is a life lesson you never forget.
We like to be our own boss. We like our freedom, and we like the opportunity to make as much money as our skill and hard work can deliver. What better way to dish up a serving of the American dream?
I have a lot of opportunity here. You work, you make money. I send my kids to school. Karula, she's finished Boston University, and she's getting a job in MTV Coma in New York. And I have another daughter, she finished Columbia University, and now is in medical school. I'm very proud for that.
The work never stops. We always like to be surrounded by people. Even friends become family.
Well, anytime somebody famous would come in, a picture would be demanded. So we had both the Greeks and the non-Greeks. The non-Greeks included Barbara Streisand. She got a little testy with him when he asked her for his picture, but he said to her, "Look, I'm not trying to pick you up. I just want an autographed photo." And she said, "Okay," and she gave it to him.
The Daily News did a poll about a year ago. They wanted to find out, whose picture is in most of the restaurants in New York. And I won the poll, and I felt pretty good about that.
Now, lest you think that Greek cooking is synonymous with diners, witness Milos, the hottest restaurant in New York, which takes Greek cuisine from the hot to the hot.
I must say that, it is not a question of formal training as it is being part of growing up in Greece that gave me this sensibility to these kinds of ingredients. That was part of our upbringing at home, where food was a huge ceremony. It was an important function of our family.
Well, it is a great tradition. We all arrived home. It was a bustling time. It was a scurrying time. Everybody was having fun laughing because we knew we were going to sit at the table and have a great meal. Lamb, chicken, always started out with the soup. Pasticcio, domadas, grape leaves. That's it. Typical fare.
The dining experience is really an extension for the center of our life, the family. It is the wheel. It starts not only with cousins, aunts, and godparents, but also regional groups. The circle becomes so wide, even friends become family.
When people walk into my house, they think that I live with a tribe, because my mother lives with us. I have 2 young children who are 6 and 8. And friends say that whenever they walk into the kitchen, they know only half the people there, because they're always friends, old friends, new friends, hovering around. It's a little bit like living in a commune, which is very Greek.
Growing up, our home was always full of company. We always had special guests, would you say, coming over for the holidays. My father used to invite people to our house that, were not Greek at all, and just, hey, this is how we celebrate Easter. This is how we celebrate Christmas. So that was something I really enjoyed growing up, the closeness of the family that really was special to me.
It is the mother who holds the family together. From Greek mythology on, mothers have held a revered place, especially during the hard times in America. Mothers helped us maintain our Greek heritage through language, church, family, and song.
Maria με τα κίτρινα, ποιον αγαπάς καλύτερα, ποιον αγαπάς καλύτερα, τον άντρα σου ή το γειτόνα.
Her home was always warm. I can't tell you how often I'd come home from school or from church, and the meal would, the senses, the smells would emanate the staircase outside the door, and it would always make me hungry. And my mother would remember very well that I would yell before I would even get close to the house, "I'm hungry, Mom," in Greek, of course.
I didn't know my father. I was fortunate. My grandfather was there. I had aunts and uncles, but mother was the figure. Mother was the greatest influence on me and my brother, period. Mother worked hard, had us right there, and the love in the family structure was just extraordinary, and her goodness.
My mother and her sister, because they very much, in large measure, form the backbone of the family, and they were there for you always, and they worked hard. They worked in the home, but they worked hard.
My mom is a very, very strong woman. To come over to the United States, being totally overwhelmed with not speaking a word of English, she is very, very strong. And I think that's where I get, my strength from when I'm playing and things aren't going well, or, I really see a lot of her and me.
Fathers have a strong role in our cultures, too. Working and supporting the family is paramount. They love being home, but as with our mothers, the work never stops.
Oh, my father was a workaholic, and maybe that's where I got it from. Working at night, working early in the morning. I remember him always working. He was a journalist, and you can write at home, you can write anywhere, so I have this image of him always working.
You talk about sacrifice. My dad worked 7 days a week, 12, 14 hours a day, to make us feel that we were not poor. But we were living in an apartment for $48 a month in the upper west side of Manhattan, which was the poor side of town. But there was always food on our table.
He had made his fortune in Greece, which went downhill. And here he did very, very, very hard work. I think he started out literally as a busboy and worked his way up to being a waiter, a room service waiter, a captain of this and that and the other thing, and wound up sort of in the hotel industry. But a very, very difficult road for him, much more difficult than mine. He literally paved my way.
My father looked at me and the way I handled the delicatessen business, and he said, "You better learn how to read because you're not going to make it with your hands, the way things are going."
Children are handed the most precious tools in the Greek culture, knowledge and education. Childhood is a whirlwind of learning experiences. Do a lot, do it well, and never forget, nourish your mind.
I can't remember a day in my life when I didn't hear the Greek word grammata, which is letters. And it was ingrained in us from the day we could be conscious of anything, that letters were everything. But it was always letters, it was always education, because that was the real outlet for opportunity.
My father did the same thing, but in a scholastic way. He was always studying. He was always learning. He always had a project. He was writing for this magazine or that newspaper, or he was deciding to study. He started off life as a socialist, a Debs socialist, and ended up as a Republican.
I remember going to kindergarten the first day and speaking absolutely no English to speak every time the teacher would talk to me, and I went home with a note thinking it was something really positive, and was quite reprimanded by the family, but now I accuse my mother and father of some sort of educational abuse.
There were difficulties in an era when acceptance of our native language was not tolerated. It wasn't easy, but we overcame it with grace and humor.
I started mixing in class the Greek with the English. And the principal called my mother and said, you've got to pull your son out of elementary school for about a year. So there was a clash, you know, which I really didn't understand.
We were looked upon as outsiders. We were immigrant kids. My real name is Icarus. It's not Ike, Icarus. And in public school, I had this freaky name, Icarus, Icarus. What is that? So they used to call me Ick sometimes, believe it or not, Ick, Eck, Ook.
This didn't stop us from reaching the highest levels, even when we had to start at the bottom.
I don't care if you're a pushcart Greek or a doctor Greek, you understand what education can bring to you.
In the generation that my father came in, I think all those Greeks who came here, at least until the early 50s, the concept that they were willing to give up their life for their children. I'm the first college graduate in my family. My sister went to college. We both went to graduate school. It was expected that we would do this.
I remember once when I was like in high school, you know how you are as a high school kid, saying to him I wasn't going to go to college. And he grabbed me and he shook me and he says, you're going to go to college. He says, you may grow up to be a bum, but you're going to be an educated bum.
There are no bums here. An opportunity handed to you is an opportunity lost unless you're willing to completely embrace that chance. We expect the highest level of accomplishment. It is the standard for Greek Americans.
I mean, if you're Greek, you have to be good at what you do, whatever you choose. And you know that from the day you start going to school. You know, get good grades, work hard, do a job, and be sure that whatever you choose, you do it as well as you can. Maybe even not just do it as well as you can. Be really good at it.
This thousands of years culture of the Hellenic culture, it's a terrible burden on you. I mean, how do you match that? How do you compete with Aristotle and Plato and Aristophanes and all these cats?
We always want to think we're first among everyone else is barbarians, and we're civilized. It never ends.
After all, the Greeks were the founders of modern civilization, and I'm just trying to continue that heritage.
It is a great heritage that we carry from our ancestors. Our grandparents bore the same determination to excel. They were all willing to climb onto boats and then crawl the way up the ladder of success. It is for these reasons that the next generation can now wave both flags proudly.
And there is more of this great program.